I want to 1v1 B1 in OG Doom.
I
No
got this.
mouse. I've always my parents always were playing dance music around the house growing up, but the first time I really got my hands on DJ equipment, it was in, I want to say 5th grade. My parents got me, I don't know if it was for my birthday or for Christmas, I forget when I got it, but I know it was in 5th grade, and it was this ancient but really cool, I literally want to say DJ controller, like a very primitive DJ controller. And for those who don't know what a DJ controller is, it's basically what it sounds like. It's a, what you usually see, the two say vinyl platters, or the two spinning discs and all the knobs between. We call that a DJ controller. If it's smaller, if it's all kind of connected to one thing. And I got it in 5th grade. And I was able to, it was a very cool tool. It was called a DMC squared. That was the name of it. I still remember the name of it. I even remember the name of the company that made it. I don't know if they're still around. Shout out Mixman Technologies, man. It was so ahead of its time. When I was in 5th grade, I had this whole, when I got this thing, I just saw it on a commercial and it was like DJ and remix your own songs. I was like, that's cool. And then I kind of asked for it, but I had no idea how much I was going to love it right off the bat, because I just would spend hours, we would get all of these, basically these when you bought it, you get all of these samples of all these 90s and early 2000s electronic artists, really cool industrial stuff like Skinny Puppy. I don't know if some people might know them. Cold Cut, which is a classic kind of electronic music act from the 90s 2000s, really honestly cool artists that were packed on this thing, and they kind of marketed it to kids my age. And I really latched onto it, and I never let go. I was addicted to making, not just make, I don't really make it anymore, but really addicted to remixing and playing around with electronic music from a very early age. At I would say around 5th grade. I don't know what age that would be, my math is awful, but when I was a wee lad, that's when it all started. That, for better or worse. It was a really ingenious toy. It was called a DMC squared. It's really cool. You can look it up on Google. There's a bunch of pictures. I should really get one as a collector's item and frame it or something. It's such a cool little plastic toy. I love that thing. I'm now I would say mostly on Twitch, but I did tour for a living at one point as a DJ. I started basically, when I started seriously DJing around 18, when I was trying to get into clubs and stuff as a DJ. I started DJing small house parties around Boston, and I networked with a lot of people there, and I met some other DJs. I would just bring my laptop, and I'd bring what I mentioned before, a DJ controller. This time it wasn't the kid's toy I was talking about. It was still basically a kid's toy, but for an 18-year-old kid, it was called a Vestax VCI 100, and it was the first really proper portable DJ controller. Before, you have to lug these huge, what are called CDJs. What you normally see in a club is a really nice professional big setup, and I'm not knocking on that, but it's just not very portable. And when you're trying to get your foot in the door, there's no way you're gonna have the expense to you can't have, there's no way you can fill that expense. So you start off small, and so I had this little portable DJ controller. It was very durable, actually. It was made out of some kind of metal or aluminum, and I used to beat the crap out of that thing, and we'd take it around all these parties around Boston. And eventually we caught the attention of some people who were running kind of these illicit raves in Boston, so to speak. They would rent out warehouses and art galleries and stuff, and we would collaborate with them and promote it on Facebook and through word of mouth. We had this whole huge thing in Boston that we set up from the underground. We built it and built it as something that was from the underground, and since it was from the underground, that basically infected my music taste as well, because I wasn't we weren't really trying to jet set straight to the biggest clubs in Boston. We were more we like these dingy house parties and basements and stuff like that. We're a little bit edgy, but we thought we were cool, maybe not so cool, but we definitely it was a different vibe than a lot of other stuff in the Boston scene back then. So it was exciting, you know. And it wasn't just me; it was a lot of other DJs coming up around the same time in Boston. It was very exciting. And then from there, as I grew, you know, from 18 to 21, we went basically from Boston to pretty much the whole Northeast area. We did like Pennsylvania, we did New York City, obviously, a lot of places in Mass, like the Cape, stuff like that. But you know, mostly based in Boston. And then when I was 21, I moved to Asia, and that was a whole new chapter. I could talk about that for like hours. I mean, there's so many stories. But when I moved to Asia, I kind of stopped doing it for a while just to get my legs in Asia, just to, you know, get, you know, I worked a couple teaching jobs and stuff. And when I mean in Asia, I was in South China, like kind of near Hong Kong. And yeah, like when I was there, I further perfected the craft, and I got into a whole bunch of clubs there. Got a whole in the DJ world, we call it a residency. You get yourself a residency. It's like you've pretty much made it. It's when a club like basically makes you almost like, actually not almost, like pretty much a full-time DJ. Like you're guaranteed a slot, and you're paid a monthly stipend by the club. And yeah, I had a residency at the top club in Guangzhou in 2011, 2012. It's called Sun's Bar, and it was owned partly by the French and Chinese. And yeah, that's really where I just went stratospheric and was able to tour and met all of these like big time DJs from Europe who like my style really like kind of formed itself, I think, when I got to Asia. But you know, like I said, it started from like 5th grade, and it just kind of evolved, and it's still evolving. But I would say like the peak of it was at Asia. That's when I was doing it for a living and doing tours and stuff like that. And I'm 33 now, so when I when I settled down, you know, like 28-ish, I got, you know, got a family, got a mini UMOS, 2 mini UMOS. Yeah, I started a family, and now I just was like, I still have a passion for it. So yeah, I was honestly just playing with my DJ gear by myself, like in my bedroom. It's not even, I was just like, listen, because I love it so much. I love music and mixing it so much. I wasn't doing it for anybody. I was like, this, I just love it. You know, it's a hobby. So eventually someone says, UMOS, you need to put this on Twitch. And I'm like, isn't Twitch for video games? They're like, yeah, now they open it up to everyone. You can do whatever now, pretty much. I'm like, really? So yeah, now I've been DJing on Twitch for almost 2 years, and it's been great. It's been awesome. It's a totally different experience. I would liken it more to like a radio DJ thing, but with a little bit more interaction than a radio DJ actually has. A lot more instantaneous. But you can still like play it as a DJ if you want. You don't, you know, like, I don't know. I'll go into it later, but you know, I set the mood when I click stream. You know, if I don't want to be like, you know, fraternizing with Chad and like, you know, like cracking jokes and stuff, and I just want to like do a set, you know, I can do that. It's great. Like Twitch basically doesn't pressure me into, you know, where the club's like pressuring you gotta keep people moving, keep people dancing. Twitch, I'm like, I'm just gonna keep playing what I liked, but this time I'm streaming it on the internet. And if you want to be here, you're here. If you're here. If you're not, you're not. But if you're here, cool. We love you. You know, that's pretty much how it is. You know, it's never for clout. It's never for fame. It's never for money. It's though all those things are nice. Don't get me wrong. I'm not rejecting those things, but it's really just about the love and passion of music and just mixing music, and as cliche as it sounds, the vibe, right? So it's all about the vibe. So if you can cultivate that, it's half the battle. We came up with that name. I've been calling all my DJ sets 300% True Realness because I wanted the most ridiculous name I could think of. I wanted it so over the top, so ridiculous sounding that no one would take it seriously. Therefore, I wouldn't take it seriously. Therefore, we could all have fun. Like I did, you know what I mean? Like it's not like yo, the coolest DJ in town. Listen to the hottest beats. It's never that. It's always it's not 100%. It's not 200. It's 300%. We're being extra, and it's real, and it's a vibe, and it's true, and it's like us, man. It's like no filter. This is what you get. Make it a very big point, especially when I'm DJing or whenever I'm on stream, to be as real as possible. I don't want to cultivate a fake, different stream personality, So it's a lot less excruciating when you're not trying to like put on a face all the time when you click stream. Sometimes you like to act up and make content and kind of, crack jokes, like I said before. But, most of the time it's just me being me, playing what I want, and I'm very grateful that you and all my friends really enjoy it. So, that's where I'm at now, and I like it a lot. I almost don't even want to go back to the clubs, even though I'm too old. I'm an old man now. 33 is ancient in club years, dude. I might as well be a hermit. I think the clubs are, like a 20-somethings playground. It's obviously it doesn't mean if you're in your 30s or 40s or whatever age, as long as you're not underage, you can go to a club, obviously, but I think the energy is a lot more, as I get older, I notice like a disconnect from me and like maybe people who are like 10 years younger, say like 23, who like kind of want this like kind of more energetic, like in the DJ world we call it a banger, something like a banger, like something that gets you moving, something with like a drop, and it's very popular now with the advent of EDM, which is it means electronic dance music, but what it's come to mean is a more kind of, I don't want to say mainstream, but a more like we in the DJ terms we call it big room, like a big room style of music, meaning like you're playing big clubs and stuff, because a lot of the stuff I play I could never in a trillion years get away with playing it at a big club. I mean, but trust me, I've tried. But like you need like big room EDM type stuff. So a lot of the 20-somethings want that kind of energy, and I can sometimes sense that. But me as a 33-year-old, 30-something, I'm just like, sometimes I just want to kick back, have a drink, listen to something that's maybe half as fast, like something chill, but not. It's not always about the banger. I think once you come to a certain point in your DJ career, you're like, okay, I need to, this is fun, obviously, but I need to, there's other kind of music out there. There's other kinds, of music out there that can invigorate the same kind of like goosebumps that you get from like a really good like DJ drop, where like it builds up and drops with a beat. Like you can still get that vibe, that feeling from other music, I think you find. But when you're in your 20s, it's very, you're always wondering, you want to look cool in front of your peers, blah blah blah. But honestly, when you're in your 30s, you're just like, I just hope my knees keep working. So I don't really care if I'm appealing to everybody. I just don't want one of my knees to go out. So you get back pain and stuff. so it's growing pains, but it's good. It's good for the soul. I think it's good for somebody who truly likes DJing and has been doing it a long time to kind of branch out with other styles. So yeah, I don't know what got us on the topic of 20-somethings, but yeah, that whole club scene, I like it, but it's just like I don't particularly miss it, I guess. Even though I like my wife, though, she doesn't miss it all. She hates it. She's so over. She's toured with me a million times, been to a million clubs. She doesn't care anymore. So, but me, I might, when I go to the club, I might enjoy it. But what I normally do when I go to the clubs now is I just hang out at nearby the DJ booth and just kind of scope his gear and what music he's playing, and I try to talk to him and ask him where he's played and stuff. And it's I've had a lot of people just describe it as it's like similar to like car guys, like how you have all these car guys that hang out at these car meets and stuff, and they all show each other their rides and stuff. But DJs are it's like just like that. It's like any other hobby. It's like, oh, I've got this gear and I'm doing this and I play that style, and half the time most of the people that watch you or end up hanging out with you at your shows are other DJs, like kind of like how like when you're at a car show, it's other car guys or car girls or whatever. So it's a great hobby. You meet it. I've met a ton of great people through it, and yeah, it's brought me a lot of friendships, a lot of joy. So it's a good thing, man, for sure. I would say like it's a really blanket term, but it's I would say house music, which is there's so many different subgenres of it, but basically I would say house music, which is I guess the biggest mainstream example that people who aren't particularly into like electronic music or DJing, I guess would be like early Daft Punk, kind of like Daft Punk's not around anymore, but unfortunately, but like towards their later years, they were more like disco funk. But their early stuff, like the Discovery album, stuff like that, like the very famous song "One More Time," that's like basically what I would call like house. It's technically called French house because a house has to have a million subgenres, so that's the French take on house, which is like a lot of sampling and looping. But it's still house. It's still that like kind of like dum 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 dum. It can range anywhere from like 116 beats per minute to 100, 128, 130. I feel like once you start heading into like 130 BPM, like ish, that area, tends to be more electro, or like I said, big room, or like EDM style banger stuff. So, but house is more like I float between, like 124 beats per minute. Stuff that's not quite like the bangers at the clubs, but not terribly slow. Like, if you were like drinking a coffee at a lounge or something, it's kind of like that sweet spot in the middle that you can dance to it if you want, or you can chill to it if you want. I like to stay in like that area, but yeah, mostly house right now. But I would say a close second is funk. Gotten hugely into funk music, like old school funk records lately. So for sure, I can say recently one of the funniest. I've had a lot of favorite moments on Twitch. I've had a lot of. I've been lucky enough to have a lot of people show me a lot of love, but the most surreal and I think my favorite moment so far that's happened on Twitch. I had a childhood DJ hero of mine named Darude, who is a producer slash DJ. Not actually, he's not a house DJ like I am. He's more trance, which is like a different style of electronic music. But even though he's a different style of electronic music, he ended up raiding me on Twitch, which means he took his followers after his stream and then sent them to my stream, which ended up being like, I don't know, he had like 500 people watching him or something, and they all came to my stream, and then it's like all of a sudden, wait, I have 500 pairs of eyes on me now. It's, that's not the most people I've had watching me on the internet, but on Twitch, I would say that's close to it. I think I peaked at like 500 viewers, and I'm super blessed. That is not something that happens to everybody on Twitch. That is very, it's a very rare thing, and I'm very, very grateful. And when that happened, I was in disbelief. I honestly still can't even believe it happened. I took a million photos. I told all my family friends. I'm like, Darude, the Sandstorm guy, raided me. He's kind of a meme now with his song. His song's become a meme, but he honestly was someone who I listened to a lot growing up. I used to love trance growing up in like middle school and stuff, and it's just so surreal. And he was so nice, and his viewers were so nice to me. And it was just a great moment, and I feel like at that moment I was like, damn, okay, I can say I made it on Twitch. I got one of my DJ heroes from my childhood to send me over as viewers, and I didn't even ask. That is really cool. That's how you're so blessed, so lucky, and it made me really happy. So shout out Darude, man. Thank you for the raid. We love you, dude. He's become a legend now, dude, and so many people couldn't even believe it happened. I couldn't believe it happened. So a lot of fun, man. Yeah, it was mostly centralized, like I said, in South China. I was at a club called Sun's Bar, or Sun's Club. It was in a city in China called Guangzhou, which again is South China, very close to Hong Kong Island. And yeah, I was based there. That's where my wife is from. That's where I have my uncles out there in China. Yeah, I have some family there and from there. So it was an awesome place to be. But eventually, when I finished my residency at that club, I went on a tour. I basically had these French dudes that would hang out at the club, all these promoters, these French promoters, and they're like, oh, like, we're just going to set you up on a tour. You don't have to do anything. Like, we'll get you housing and everything. We'll fly you around. Just, go do your thing. And that's basically what happened. I got flown around, everything. Well, it was really nuts. It basically would be like, you'd go to the club, they'd fly you in, you'd go to the club, do a sound check, you would go to your hotel, or they'd get you, if you were at the club, like if you had a week long, again, here's this term residency, like if I'm talking about residency, it's basically like my part-time or full-time job at the club. You have a 2-week residency there, so they would get you like an apartment or something for 2 weeks that you could hang out in. But yeah, we went to like a bunch of cities like Qingyuan, Shanghai, Dalian, like we went everywhere, man. Beijing, I mean, we had a blast. It was great. I realized though at the end of it though, I didn't really want to do it for a living anymore, and I chose not to DJ for a living because I don't know. After a while, it kind of I don't want to say sucked the fun out of it, but it kind of like stole my energy. Like when I was on tour, I was so convinced that I had to like, drink up every night and give it 100 or as we say on the stream, give it 300% every night. But you'd have to wake up and do it again the next night, even with a gnarly hangover. So you'd be like powering. It was just like very like a self-destructive thing. And not every DJ has to do it like I did, but me being stupid in my 20s, that's how I did it. So it wasn't a totally self-destructive path, but I could kind of see the writing on the wall. And then after like I'd say about a year, I said, I'm going to switch career paths here, but I still love DJing. I'm not quitting DJing, but I'm just semi-retiring for a bit. I'm not going to pursue these residencies or tours or this or that, because I've already done all that. Like, I had already felt accomplished as a DJ, so I was like, I want to do something different. So I went down a different career path, and that was, I'd say about 7 years ago when I came. No, have I really been back 7 years? Yeah, it was about 7 years ago when I came back. That's when I pretty much stopped. But like I said, 2 years ago, I picked it up again on Twitch. But I never really stopped. But when I mean stopped, I mean like as in like DJing and sharing my music with people, like DJing for a crowd, so to speak. Even though there's no crowd when I DJ on Twitch, it's it's numbers. I like to envision a crowd. I think in my head, there's like 15, 20 people watching me right now in the room. Like that's how I try to visualize it. But it's a different dynamic being on Twitch than it is on tour, for sure. I'm from Boston. I'm now currently Boston based. I don't know how long, but I pretty much I have my roots here. So when I became a family man, I came back here. I don't know why I gravitated back here, but it's funny. I wouldn't even really recommend Boston at all for nightlife, for DJs or anything. I really don't even want. I know the Boston DJ scene, maybe not the current up and coming DJ scene, but the ones my age, I know them, and I have absolutely zero desire to like talk to 90% of them. It's a very fake and weaselly scene here that I learned, but overseas it's not. It's because here there's no real nightlife. Boston's never had, maybe for a minute in the 70s or 80s, maybe even in the 90s a shred, but there's no real proper like late night nightlife in Boston. You have to make it yourself. So I don't know. If I was, I think, trying to seriously DJ again, I'd pretty much be anywhere but here. But Boston's a beautiful city. But I just mean, if you're a DJ, maybe steer completely clear of this place, and don't waste your time. Yeah. So actually, I meant to connect my setup when we were hanging out, but I was exercising right before we did this. I had to get in my exercise, but I'll show you what I have. It's a little heavy and it's a little unwieldy, but I'll show it up to the camera. This is what I'm currently using right now. Oh my god, I hope I didn't drop this. 2 hands, UMOS, 2 hands. This is like $1,000 piece of equipment, or at least when I bought it. This is it's called a Tractor S4 MK3, and you basically have these are called platters, right? And what's cool about this one is that it emulates vinyl. So these actually spin they're motorized and they spin by themselves, like say a vinyl record would. I'm so scared I'm gonna drop this thing. One sec, buddy. I'm having PTSD. I've dropped my gear once in my life. It was not fun. It was not a good time. I like to say I treat her well, but you know, give me a couple beers, I start acting really careless around my equipment. But I choose the equipment I have now. One, because it's highly portable and I just don't have the space in my house with my family and everything right now to have a studio. I literally am like working out of the corner of my living room. But it works. Like, it's collapsible and it does the job. And like I said, I'm just DJing now on Twitch. I think I've gigged IRL with it like twice. I played like one club in Boston for a friend, and I played like one wedding for my wife's friend this past summer. That's like the only time it's ever left the house. But yeah, that's all one-offs, you know, all completely one-off stuff. It mainly stays here on my desk. But I would highly recommend, as someone who's, you know, been using a lot of portable DJ controllers, DJ mixers. I really like Native Instruments, the brand that I showed you, Tractor. You know, I always tell people it's like Coke or Pepsi when it comes to like Tractor or Serato or Record Box or whatever kind of DJ software you want to use. It's really all dependent on the person, who like their preferences and stuff. For me, I just want something durable. I want something with fun effects, and I want something that's basically vetted. Native Instruments has been around, like they were like one of the first people to do DJ controllers, and the first person to design their DJ controllers was like instrumental in the whole like basically invention of DJ controllers. They're called MIDI controllers, MIDI. It's like the kind of interface for the computer when you plug it in. It's basically just a fancy keyboard. Yeah, it's crazy how far they've come. And like I said, this new one I have, the Tractor S4 MK3, great. It's all motorized. It's got screens on it. Really so crazy how it's came from, like I said, that 5th grade little plastic toy to like, you know, these crazy like all-in-one DJ systems that, I mean, really I you know, I can get the same kind of sound out of you know, this is definitely club ready. I could bring it to a big club and throw down and play with it, even though I'd probably prefer something bigger, just because, you know, it looks cooler, and you know, but I mean, this does everything all the big rigs can do, all the big DJ rigs, you know. They've gotten it really down to a science where you can keep it on like a pretty small piece of tech if you want. If you're just starting out to DJ, I would recommend, you know, Native Instruments is good to start off with. You can get it. It's called a Tractor S2. There's a couple. There's like an MK1 and MK2. The S2 is like a smaller version of what I just showed you, and that you know, doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it's much cheaper, and that can still get the job done. Really, at the end of the day, mixing, in my opinion, is not very hard. You're just kind of putting track A and a track B and just kind of matching how fast each track is going. I'm trying to like simplify this for people who don't DJ. You know, you're matching up how fast each track is going, and you can, if you want, you can press a sync button and it'll do all the work for you, but I find it kind of boring, so I like to match up the record and, you know, spin the record a little bit to get it faster or slower. You know, it looks a little bit cooler, and it gives me something to do while I'm queuing up the next track. But really, I mean, like I would say like, yeah, the Native Instruments Tractor S2 is a good piece of gear to start off with, but Pioneer, I think, make great even cheaper entry level gear. The Pioneer, oh my god, I'm forgetting the name of the model because I haven't owned one in so long. But if you look at Pioneers, like it's called the DDJ series, and if you look at a Pioneer DJ mixer, if you look at the DDJs, they're really like low end ones, still do the job. You can get free software for it. Just gotta add in your own music, and you know, it's very accessible now. I would say if you want to DJ now, it's more accessible than ever. And like I said before, it's really like, do you like Pepsi or do you like Coca-Cola? It's like, you know, it really boils down to preference, because all of the programs, all of the DJ software pretty much do the same thing. Some of them have a little bit more capability than the others, but you know, it's for the most part the same thing. I always say it's less on the gear and more on the DJ. It's more on what tracks they're playing, how they're mixing, you know, cultivating the vibe. It's all about the vibe. That's really what it is. When you're DJing, you're marketing your vibe, because like when you're playing your music, you're setting a tone, you're setting a vibe. So that's what I feel like an entry-level DJ should focus on, is making their own sound and not chasing after somebody else. You can get inspired, sure, but you know, put it doesn't matter if it doesn't need to be the same genre. It doesn't need to be brand new music. It can be all sorts of things, but if it speaks to you, then it can all kind of be mixed together. But you know, there is one kind of learning curve that even I learned kind of halfway into mixing, where mixing in key is a big deal and will make your mixes sound a lot more disjointed and better. And when I mean key, I'm talking about like musical keys. So they've made it really easy now, where they even have it color coded on the DJ software, so you can pick the next song and it'll be in the same key as the one you're playing. So, but that's like, you know, that's like kind of more intermediate, advanced level stuff when you go down the line. But really, like, you know, my advice, you're starting off, get like a Pioneer DDJ mixer used or super cheap from Guitar Center or whatever. See if you like it. Keep going at it. If you love it, keep doing it. Then you can, there's a million choices for gear after that, you know. But I always say, you know, start small, because you don't want to have all this, you don't want to overwhelm yourself with all this gear and not know what to do with it, and then, you know, get discouraged, because you know, I feel like DJing something like, it's a lot better to grow into, and it's something it requires, like any hobby, it requires a lot of repetition, a lot of practice, and a lot of passion. So if you're ready for those three things, you know, it's really sky's the limit, and there's really no limit to what kind of gear you can get. But yeah, entry level, my suggestion, Tractor S2, either the MK3 or the MK2, or a Pioneer DDJ, I don't know, like 100 or DDJ 300. I don't know what the series is now, whatever the entry level ones are. Really good stuff. Basically, I have the green screen behind me. Gotta have the green screen up. You know, this thing, which I just got, which is great. So I can put visuals on in the background. Right now, I just have a plain blue background, just because, you know, we're doing an interview. I don't want to be too distracting, but usually I have like visuals and stuff in the background. So you don't need to have that, but you're asking me what I do. So first thing I do, I get that green screen up. I have a DJ table that I just bought. That comes up to about like my navel, about like my belly button. It means I don't have to hunch over. And it kind of looks like a keyboard stand, and I use that DJ table. And I obviously have my mixer. I'll show you this thing that I use. It's very ancient. I've had this thing. I will never get rid of. I'll bury me with it, dude. I've had this. This is called a sound card, right? And this basically translates the audio that's coming out of my mixer and then sends it. So it comes in through here, you know, from the mixer, and then the USB, it sends it out to my computer. That way, the streaming software I have understands that music is being sent to it from a mixer, and then people hear the output on my streaming software. So that's basically, it's very similar to people on Twitch who capture games off their like PlayStation or Nintendo or Xbox with a like a capture card, it's called. Very similar to that, but it's for audio. Whereas like that's like for like video, you know, you're trying to like get your video signal off your PlayStation onto your computer to stream it to Twitch, where like I'm trying to get the audio signal off my mixer to my PC to stream it to Twitch. So I have a big lighting. I've learned is very important. I have an Elgato ring light. Pretty much all my green screen, my lighting is Elgato. I have a webcam, obviously. I use a Logitech Stream Cam. Well, obviously, you got to have the streaming PC that, is powerful enough to have all these things hooked up to it and still run. So, and there's one more thing that I had to get, and it's not usually something every DJ needs, but for my case, I needed it. Called a mini mic preamp. What this does, I got this off Amazon for, I don't know, like $20-$30, and this basically amplifies the microphone signal to be louder, because I found that the amplifier for the microphone in that $1,000 mixer I showed you is actually very, very quiet and hard to hear, which really pissed me off. I think it's the biggest flaw of that mixer. So yeah, I had to get this little guy, but problem solved. And yeah, with all those things combined, I am Captain DJ. I just needed like weird visuals for my stream, and I forget how I found them. I think I just searched like what was I looking for? Like vapor. I think I just searched like vaporwave visual playlist or something into like YouTube, and I clicked around enough where I just found this compilation of all these 80s Japanese commercials with all these like 80s celebrity cameos and stuff, and I was like, that's pretty cool. It's pretty fun to watch. It's like good eye candy. It's very interesting. I'm not necessarily like a huge like I do like a lot of Japanese culture, but I'm not really, like, it's crazy to say I'm not like hugely into anime. I haven't really even been to Japan that much. I've been there like very briefly. Yeah, I don't even play that much Japanese music. I do like a lot of it, but yeah, I just thought the visuals, like, they look insane. Like, they're just really crazy, like wacky commercials, and it's got that, since they're from the 80s, it's got that kind of like VHS kind of like scan line kind of tinge to it. It's got that retro feel to it. So I thought all that stuff together, I'll DJ in front of that. That looks pretty cool. And it became a hit. People really liked it, and it kept people around. If I was kind of boring to watch, they'd just watch the Japanese TV advertisements behind me, and they'd get a good laugh, and they'd spot a lot of things, and it kind of became like a hit on the stream, and I never got rid of them, and now I'm kind of known for them. But recently we've been experimenting with different visuals and stuff. But the Japanese commercials have been really big on Twitch, very, very popular with a lot of the community. That's a really good question. I would say, honestly, I would maybe say no, because I do everything I listen to off stream at one point ends up getting played on stream. But the problem is I listen to so many different things that, it would just sound so disjointed and weird if I was like, okay, I'm gonna play this like cool dance song I was listening to earlier. Oh, here's a cool like indie rock song I liked. Oh, here's like an old school funk record I thought was cool. Like if I like jump between all that like I do IRL, it's gonna sound really weird. So what I tend to do is like group all these all this music I like, and then kind of like slowly each day I'm listening to all these different genres, and then if I find something I like, I just kind of like file it into that folder of music that I have. And then when it comes time, it's a really good question, because when it comes time to DJ, I don't know what I want to play. It's like I'll normally just play like whatever I was recently listening to that day, but it can sometimes be like so many different kinds of music that it's really hard for me to DJ, because for lack of a better word, I'll have like I'll be like very hyperactive over what I'm playing. I'll be very frenetic and switching from one thing to the next, and it never sounds good. So it could be a recipe for disaster if I don't have like one vibe set in mind for the stream. We can obviously hop from genre to genre during the stream, but starting off it can be tough because, like you said, I mean, like, you know, when off stream I'm listening to all this kind of music, and then when it's go time, it's like, oh wait, well maybe this one, but what am I gonna follow it up with? Maybe that one. I don't know if I'm gonna follow it up with that. So a lot of indecision going on before a DJ set on what I'm gonna play. So yeah, no one's ever asked me that. That's a really good question.